So, welcome to this QGIS workshop of the locator. So what's QGIS Locator? It's a search bar shown in the bottom left of the application that you see here on this screenshot, which is sought as a central place to search almost anything that you can do, view, or use in QGIS. It's quickly accessible via a keyboard shortcut, Control K or Command K on Mac, which basically allows you to work without the mouse. And you can, of course, click and start searching. As soon as you have the mouse in it, this window will automatically show and results will be shown in that view, in the result list. And then in the results, you can double click or use the keyboard arrows to navigate between them and press enter to activate that result. And depending on what kind of result it is, the action will be started. And you can click on the loop to search for the categories of the filters and the configuration. We'll move, delete to clear the line edit, and we move to the different locator filters we have. So if I go here on QGIS, and as soon as you enable or activate this search bar, you see all the filters that I currently have on my QGIS application. So and on the left here, the same here that you see on the left here are the shortcuts. So we have actions, a calculator, processing algorithm, features in all layers, spatial bookmarks. I'll go over selected features, active layers, active layer features. Go to coordinate, project layers, project layouts, and settings. We'll have after a small exercise with these. And now, where is this all defined? If you go in the main application settings, you have a locator tab here with all the filters defined. It's a bit different on Mac than on. I don't have my menu. Oh. Okay, so that's in the application settings. I've used the locator. I don't know why I don't have my menu right now because it's in full screen apparently. But let's go on. So here in the main application settings, locator, I have all my filters defined here, and you'll see that we have several columns. The prefix, which is basically the shortcut for that filter. The enabled, so basically if the filter is enabled or not, and the default column, which basically says if the filter will be used without using its prefix. So if I want to search, for instance, only in project layers, I'll use the L prefix and then search for a layer. And what means that the default checkbox is checked is that even if I don't use the L prefix, it's gonna work also. But for instance, this active layer features, so I'm looking for features in the active layer, will work only if I have typed the prefix F. Otherwise, the filter won't be used in the search. And next column is the configuration. So some filters do provide the configuration interface, and in that case, this will open this configuration. If I go here, active layer features, for instance, I have this window popping. Okay. So these prefixes, that's what I've explained before. These are used to search in only in a single locator filter. And if I go to the project I have here, so you received this demo project. If you have any issue with opening it, maybe ask in the chat. Otherwise, you can start playing with it. And if I use now the prefix L and look for a layer, I'll have it here shown, for instance. And if I press enter, that's going to highlight, set the active layer to that layer.
Denis, very briefly, yes. About opening the demo project, can you explain it, because it's in a geo package that you can open it from the browser? Or?
Yes, it's a bit of a pity that I don't have my I don't have the menu here. So basically, to open that project, you go to File, Open Project from Geo Package, and you give that the file you've downloaded, the geo package file, and it will ask you which project. There is only one in it, so you press OK, and that should open the project.
Alternatively, you can use the browser and unfold the yes, like this. If you can see it, yeah. And go to geo package. Probably you need a connection first.
Yeah. Okay, so here it is. And then you see the locator exercise QGIS project, and I guess double clicking on that will just open the project.
Or drag and drop, yeah.
So that's from the browser, otherwise from the main menu, File, Open Project from GeoPackage.
And it could contain some Swiss topo data, administrative units, and some place names. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Sorry, I'll keep that for the next one. So let's play with the locator. So we'll play with the layout. So the old print composer in former QGIS. So we'll open the PIX 4000 layout. So that's PL for project layout, and if I type 4000, It looks like I have some requests going. Okay. So I had many locator filters which were fetching on a request on the internet, and apparently was quite slow, but now I have removed them from the default, so I need the prefix to call them, and let's play. So it's the project layout. I type the name of the layout, press enter, and I have now my layout, which has been opened. Next one would be to set an active layer. So we do that with the districts layer. So that's the L prefix. And if I type the name of the layer, press enter, this activates the districts layer. Now we'll play with an action which is defined in the PIX 4000 layer, which basically open a web page with a Google image search with the name of that peak. So the idea here is that we'll open that action. So PIX 4000, I'll enable the layer. We have the peak shown on the map. So again, if you don't recall the prefix, it's going to be shown in the list here. So that's actions I want, and I'll type Google, I think it's Google image. It has activated the action here on that layer. I can click on a peak, and it opens the Google search for that peak. All right, next one would be to search, to select a layer, so the PIX 4000, and find a feature in it. So now that's the active layer feature that we will use, and we look for the Dufour-Spitze. So here, that's active layer features. So this filter will look in the active layer, so the one selected in the layer tree, and look in any attributes. So now, if I have, I can type Dufour. I'm gonna find it. Okay. Now, a small thing. This filter can be used to search within only one attribute of one column of that layer. So the exercise would be to find peaks with Gipfel in the name, but not in the peak type. Because if I type here Gipfel, we see that it's fine in several columns. Here in peak type, Gipfel is peak type, so we have any features coming. So if we want Gipfel in the name of the peak, but not in the peak type, if I look to the attribute table, that's shown here. We have the name, but in any type, we have Gipfel. So if I want to do that, we have the add command, which allows you to restrict the search within a single attribute. You show, which is shown here in gray. If I start typing add, we see that all the fields of that layer are shown. So that's in the name that I want to search. So I can start typing name. You see that it's grayed out. So if I press tab, it's going to use that field. And now I type Gipfel, and it gives me only features which have Gipfel in their name. One small remark, which was in the previous slide, if I go to the layer properties of that layer and to the fields, I have a doubt, Andreas, where is
it's in the configuration column on the very right part. It's correct in the fields. Now in the fields tab, you're in it. And now in the right column.
It has changed. So here you have the option that it's not searchable. And if you check that that column, then the attribute won't be searched in the filters. So if I remove now peak type, or I set peak type as not searchable, press OK, and go again to find features here and type gitful. Normally now it's not searching the peak type, so I only have the one with gitful in the name that are shown. That's one thing. So that filter was to search in the active layer. We have another filter which basically search in any layer of the layer tree. And the prefix is called AF, or all features, all layers features. And this one does not search in any field, any attribute of that layer, of the layers, but in the display expression. So the display expression is defined in the vector layer properties, in the display tab, and here you can use either a column or an expression, which will define the display title of a feature. So this locator filter will use that display expression to search. And so the exercise was to find features with LH in the name. So that's AF, LH. And I see I have two results in two distinct layers, in the SIC cabins and in the peak 4000 layers. And if you go to the project properties, can I open that from here? I think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah, just use general, for example.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I'll open the project properties. It's a good exercise to do today. And in the data sources, I have all my layers here, and I can set them as not searchable. And that's basically the same. The layers won't be used in the all features searching. So if you have a remote layer, for instance, that might be a bit slow, it might be interesting to set it as not searchable, or I don't know, cadastral data, vector layer in the background that you don't want to search in it. That might make sense also to set it as not searchable. Next one is calculation. So you can have, using the equal sign, you can make any calculation, and that's going to be copied to the clipboard if you press enter. You can have also to go to bookmarks. So if I go bookmarks, once again, if I don't recall the prefix, I can use that, special bookmarks, and solo turn. Here we go. I have a very slow connection today, but that works. Next thing was the settings. So you can search in any settings of QGIS, and that will open the corresponding dialog at the right tab. So that's basically what I've done before, since I don't have the menu anymore. I was looking for the general tab of the settings, and that's of the project properties, and that's what was shown here. So double clicking on that directly opens the properties at the right time. If I use now, so that's the set prefix, and digitizing in the options, that opens the window at the right time directly. Okay, and we have a Go locator filter, which allows you to go to direct coordinates. So go.
It should be done normally.
Yes.
But for some reason, the WMS is really slow.
Maybe it's my...
Maybe because here we are meeting and recording.
Yes. So here we are, this run coordinate that moves the map canvas directly to that coordinate. And the last one I wanted to show on the native filters was the processing algorithm. So you can find any processing algorithm typing A. And if I want the buffer algorithm, press enter. The dialog is open here, and I can use it directly. Okay, so that was a quick overview of what we call the inbuilt or core filters. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. And otherwise, we'll move to the others filters. So basically, the filters are built in a way that it's quite easy to provide one from a plugin, and there are quite some already available in the plugin register plugin store. I don't know how to call it. And the main interesting one for us right now will be the Swiss Locator, of course, which has been sponsored by this Swiss user group 2 or 3 years ago. And you have a few from other countries. What might be of interest is the GeoMapFish locator, which allow you to integrate with your GeoMapFish search service. So even using an authentication, so in a private search, and some cantons are providing their locator. Andreas will do after a small introduction to this plugin or provider locator filter for the canton Solothurn. I'll give you now a short demo of the Swiss locator. So if I go again to settings, locator, I see here that I have 3 lines. So basically, this plugin is built or is providing 3 filters in the same plugin. One for locations, one for layers, and one for features. First thing to do is to go to the settings, and you have the language here. So that's the language that is used for searching on the remote service from map.go.ch. And it's quite important because the search will be done in only one language. So by default, it takes the local or the language of the application. So if your application is in English, French, German, or Italian, or I don't know if Romansh is there, that's going to be no issue. It's going to be good by default, and it's going to search in your own language. Now, if QGIS is set to English, but you want to search in French or German, you can basically use the language you want. So that's the language from the remote service from Swiss Topo. I'll keep it in English for now, and the coordinates is also either it tries to use the map CRS. So if it cannot use, if the map CRS is not 2056 or 21781, it's going to default to 2056. Another important thing is, I realized this was checked by default, is to uncheck that. We have currently a crash when the map tip is shown on the map. Maybe not on platform, but on some at least. So I recommend to uncheck it. And then you have under 3 tabs, one for each locator filter. And for each one, basically the first 2 lines are the priority. So it defines which is shown above the other one. So highest is for the location, medium is for the feature, and VMS layers is high. So that's going to be location first, VMS layer second, and features last, and the maximum number of results that we show for each filter. And if I go to the feature tab, we see that we can limit the features search to some layers. I'll come back to that afterwards. And the VMS layers, we see that we have a checkbox here, include data from opendata.swiss. Since recently, it does not search only in map.geoadmin.ch, but also in any layers from opendata.swiss. Some can be opened directly and some not. All right. Okay, I think it's the exercise. Search for a city or a canton. So if I type Champéry, for instance, I go there, I have the boundary which is shown directly. And if I would have left the map tip, a map tip is shown with some information and a link, but as soon as you close that window, QGIS crashes, at least for me, so I won't show that right now, and I hope that it's going to be fixed. The other one was to search for a layer, the forest reserves, for instance, and one thing here is that it requires that you use the language that is defined in the settings. So now if I search for forest, I do have the forest reserves shown here, and the layer is directly loaded here. I see the forest reserves. And of course, if I change the language of the plugin and into French and search for forêt, that's gonna find it, but not right now. Some known issues about the locator. So the crash I've mentioned before, and one thing I'm not sure yet about is that we can't use the VMTS layers right now, which I don't really understand why, since all this data has been made publicly available since 1st of March. I think we could or should improve the plugin by using the VMTS layers, and I guess that more can be shown that it does right now, but I have to inspect this a bit. So these are things that do require some time invested on the Swiss Locator plugin that might come maybe next year as a grant proposal to the Swiss user group, but that's for the future. So that's all I wanted to show about the Swiss Locator. I'll give the voice to Andreas about the Locator plugin. I don't know if you want to show your screen or I.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing now, just presenting now, and I'll let you go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. So Locator is a locator plugin developed for the canton of Solothurn. Actually, Denis did that for us on a small contract, and it integrates with our GDI. So our GDI, Geodata infrastructure, has different services. One is the search service, and then there's another one we use. It's called the data product service, and we have a central database of all our QGIS layers, and some QGIS layers can be organized in layer groups. And we also have something called a facade layer. A facade layer is something that you won't show children layer in a WMS. These are the different types of layers we have. And we offer our data in post-GIS connections to the whole administration in the canton, but also in the form of WMS, of course. And the locator allows to load data of PostGIS layers and also of WMS layers. And of course, it also integrates with our search service for looking for addresses, parcel numbers, place names, and so on. So maybe I can briefly show how it works. So we have now a different search category called Soul Locator. And then you can type, for example, you search for Wasser, water, and you get a summary of the search first. You see 149 addresses with Wasser, and then there are several maps, and there are Flur names, Geländename. And then you can restrict it to a certain category. For example, if you want only list Flurname with Wasser, you double click here, and it's restricted to only Flur names. You also have a little icon, and you see the category of the search result. Then you can go there. Of course, I don't have a base map now. You don't see much, but let's fix that. Let's load a few layers. I type for Wasser again. And now I want to load, for example, the layer group Grundwasserbewirtschaftung. You see, we have type layers and layer groups. So I load the Grundwasserbewirtschaftung. And this now connects to PostGIS database and loads all the layers in the same group here. And it loads also the QML styles. And it would also load SVG symbols that are embedded in the QML. Let's load a base map. We have foreground maps, but also background maps. For example, if you search for Hintergrund, you will find Hintergrund maps, a colored one, a black and white one, and also images. And the base maps are always loaded to the very bottom of the project, so you don't have to reorder layers. The foreground layers, they will be placed either in the group you have active, or it will be placed on top of the active layer, depending whether you activate a group or a layer. Yeah, that's it for the layer loading. I would also like to demonstrate that you can load the WMS. In the Soul Locator, we have this integrated. If you use a shift double click, then it will be loaded as WMS. So this is now, I think, no, it's still a Postgres. Let me try again. For some reason it doesn't work, maybe because of side tricks. It doesn't recognize the shift key or something. But normally it should load, if you double click with shift, then it should load as WMS. Okay, so how is this integrated? We have in the settings options, Soul Locator, we have extra settings. And here you can turn on and off certain categories you want to search for. Foreground, background, and all the search for place names, addresses, buildings, and so on. You can also check how many search results you want to have, and then there's a setting how you want to load the layers. For Postgres, it is important to properly deal with the authentication settings. And for that, in the canton of Solothurn, we decided that if you want to share a project with other people, other QGIS users, that we all use the same authentication login. So I have one called SOGIS, and it has the ID SOGIS00, and this is used by all users. And whenever a user connects, it will use his own authentication. For example, his Windows login. We have connected our Windows logins to the Postgres login using LDAP. And this authentication, it means when Andreas Neumann is opening the project, it will use my username. But if Peter Müller is connecting, it will use his own login for the same project. And of course, this also makes sure that there are no credentials in the project. So that's quite important to properly deal with this. And here you can also select the default connection for new data sets you want to load, either Postgres or WMS. Our plugin is also working for outside of the Solothurn administration, but then there is also only the WMS connection available, not the Postgres, because of course firewall issues and so on. And you can also have a setting that the WMS is loaded as separate layers or as one single layer aggregating all the layers. And yeah, there are some additional settings. And what is quite important for us, we have the possibility to switch our service to the test system. For example, we have here the service URL, that's the production, the live service, but we can switch this to the test or integration system. So let me briefly demonstrate how to search for an address. For example, Rötistraße 4. This is the address where I work normally when I don't work from the home office. Okay. And I think that's about it about the Locator. We have the plugin source code is on GitHub with OpenQGIS. It would be available. You can adapt it to your own GDI, but of course, the search service and the data product service is something unique to Solothurn. I don't know how they integrated it in Schaffhausen. Maybe they have something similar, but so I think there are a number of locator plugins available that you can use to develop your own one. But of course, it needs to integrate with your GDI and search services. And at the very end, I want to briefly show how you can debug these network connects. There is something called, if you go to View, Panels, and then Debugging Development Tools. Here you can see there is an additional panel, and it allows to record the network request. For example, if you have a WMS connection, it will show up here in the network requests. And I can also show this for the locator searches. For example, if I turn on recording here, and then I type Wasser, see for each keystroke I press, there is a network request. And I can open the last one here. And you can copy paste that, copy URL. Then you can, if something goes wrong here, you can copy this to a browser, for example. And then you can see what happens what parameters are used and what are the results. And here's a JSON structure returned with the data product. And this is the search service first. And then there is a separate service with the connection details, the data product service. So whenever you have network troubles in QGIS, make sure you're using these debugging development tools. And there might be something wrong with your service or QGIS is issuing the wrong request. So, yeah. So with this, I will close my presentation here, and we can switch to the questions. Do you have any? Or what happens in the chat? Let me see.
How did you open the request inspector?
Okay. So let me present again. Entire window. Do you see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. So you go to menu view and then panels, and then debugging development tools. This one that will open. Or an alternative way is to click in the toolbar with the right mouse button, and then you get a list of all panels and toolbars, and there you can find it also. And here is the record button that you need to start and stop, and you can clear it, or you can save the log results. Or yeah. And by the way, there's another icon here. This one shows you the startup process of QGIS, and it shows for each component in QGIS how many milliseconds it takes to start. And if you wonder about the slow startup of QGIS, it's usually the plugins fault. The plugins take the longest time. You can see here, this is in a number of seconds. And this means, for example, the processing plugin that takes 5 seconds to load. If you turn off the plugins, if you don't need them, QGIS will start much, much quicker. Yeah. Does that answer your question about the network debugging tools?